I run the Dab Roast, a TV show with Redman.
Right.
And then we also have launched a festival here in Washington State called the Cantanna. Last year, we had it headlined by Tech Nine. Our show is behind the curtain. We lift the skirt up. We show you what cannabis culture is. The thing in cannabis right now is creating identities because the pioneers get killed by the settlers. Settlers are the big tobacco, the Coca-Colas. I mean, I'm just always shooting for the stars, swinging for the fences, trying to find something to make my impact and something to bring purpose and change.
Where I ask my guests, how did you do it and why?
Ooh, that was done by the youngins, but I'm the old guy. Who cares? So listen, Scott McKinley, thanks so much for coming on.
Yes, sir.
You know, we had a nice little rambling on, so I feel like we've gotten to know each other a little bit. So why don't you tell anybody out there listening and watching, who are you, what you do, and what dragged you in here?
My name is Scott McKinley. I do a lot of different things as, I guess you would say, a serial entrepreneur. I am the executive producer by trade and title. I run the Dab Roast, a TV show with Redman.
Okay.
And 502 here in Washington State where we sell products.
All right.
And then we also have launched a festival here in Washington State called the Cantanna. Last year, we had it headlined by Tech Nine.
Cool.
And this coming year, August 9th, 10th, and 11th, we are doing it much bigger at Franklin Farms with 3 days and 4 stages, a big car show, really pulling out all the stops. So we're kind of on the little media tour right now, trying to get the word out.
Get the word out. Cantanna Fest, August 9, 10, 11.
Yes, 3 days.
2024 in
Snohomish Valley, yes.
Snohomish Valley. Wow,
Yeah.
that's sweet.
Franklin Farms, right next
on.
to Stoker Farms, where they make all the Christmas trees.
Let's go. Franklin Farms, Cantanna Fest 2024, August 9, 10, 11.
We have 93 artist slots, 80 of them all local Washington artists.
Cool. And then I saw last year was like 100 booths.
Last year we had about 100 booths. This next one we have about 220, 230 booth spots.
Good for you.
So
Good for you.
Over 3 days, we've really learned a lot on our first festival.
I'm sure.
And for 3 days, you can have a booth to represent whatever you're trying to get there and sell to 3 days of crowd for $500. So it's inexpensive to come out and really work with us. We're trying to pull the community together.
Right on. You know, so we did a thing called Coffee Fest. And that was similar, started off pretty tiny. It was a regional moving show as opposed to the one big kick-ass show, which was Specialty Coffee Association. But they got a little too hoity-toity and maybe a little too exclusive. So Coffee Fest started to do like roll around regional. And I think for a Coffee Fest for us, it was like by the time, we had to fly people there, but by the time you got people in and out, it's like $10,000 per show. That's a lot of goddamn money. And I think the booths ended up being a couple $1,000 at least. So no cheap stuff. $500, by the way, is a sweet deal. That is a sweet deal, especially for a smaller business just trying to get your name out there.
Yep.
They're also really good trade shows. Even if people may not come up and say hi to you, you're amazing how much just eye traffic you get. Then they see you again. That's the whole game. I'm sure marketing is about just constant drip. Selling is getting out there and doing what you and I are doing here. I'm trying to sell you on how cool I am. Struggling. I'm not getting there, but anyway, so continue on. Tell us you're doing that. You're doing the Cantanna Fest. Go ahead.
At the Cantanna Fest, we have 4 stages.
All right.
One of the stages is our local heroes stage, which was what we called it before Robert Lang Studios stepped up and took the name of that stage.
Right.
Now it's the Robert Lang Studios stage. We have the Cantanna Fest app, so if you sign in and show up, then it turns on your voting capabilities, and you can vote all day long with what performances you thought were the best performances. Whoever scores the highest performance gets a full recording deal at Robert Lang Studios.
Yeah, I saw
and a
that.
full distribution
That's
deal.
pretty cool.
So one stage is centered around just really highlighting locals and trying to get somebody into the studio to record. We have one stage that's been sponsored by Artis IQ. They're a high-risk credit card transfer company.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So they handle a lot of money transfers for dispensaries around the country, seed banks, mushroom companies, places where it's hard to get bank accounts and hard to do safe transfers. So Artis IQ, if you're looking for that. And then
Fill in again, Artiste IQ, just so I want to know. If you got to borrow some money or have a place to deposit money, things of that nature, they are coming in and they're doing that. Is that right?
they're high risk credit card transfers. So
Ah,
if you're
ah.
trying to sell things like seeds and you can't get a bank account to sell seeds,
Yep.
then you can go through a system like them where they use Bitcoin transfers and credit cards, and they have figured out a path to money to make it to where it's legal for you to take money and sell some of your stuff.
Theoretically, cross state lines, I guess, is the big thing. That's the federal.
Yeah, I mean, technically,
potentially.
seeds are not illegal until you grow them. So you can sell them as movie props and all different kinds of things, but they still try to seize all your money. So
That's not good.
like PayPal, places like this, if they think that it's seeds, then they'll all of a sudden freeze the accounts, and then you have to go try to get the accounts unfrozen. They have figured out a process to let you actually do money transfers safely and where everything's out in the open and everybody knows what's going on.
Okay, that's PayPal. No.
Artiste
That's Artiste.
IQ.
Yeah, okay.
So they're coming on, and they took the name stage of one of our stages so that they can come out and tell everybody about their banking system that they're working out.
Okay.
Our EDM forest is this whole festival grounds was put on a Christmas tree lot. They, for the past 2 years, have been turning it into a festival grounds, but they let certain areas of Christmas trees grow 60 feet tall of Christmas trees. Then they pruned them 10 foot on the bottom so you can walk underneath all these trees.
Right on. Okay.
So we're hanging hammocks everywhere, laser lights, and we're putting a DJ at the end, but we're hanging the speakers throughout the entire forest so you can walk through during the daytime and get all your shade and be in the EDM lounge. And the world famous Seattleite, now moved to Florida, Donald Glaude, he will be the host of that stage. Artiste IQ will be hosted by
For those who don't know, tell what makes Donald Glaude long. I mean, long. What makes? Say the name again.
Donald Glaude.
Okay, Donald Glaude, because I don't know him. So tell me why he's a local favorite for anybody else listening.
He's one of the originators of house music. Like one of the original guys that's pushing the house music in the big scene of EDM music back before all of the dubstep and everything went mainstream. He's like one of the originators of the whole plur scene and EDM. And he's one of the old school guys, so he knows what he's talking about, and he's coming in order to help manage the whole stage and host the whole stage for our EDM forest to make sure that the kids come in, do the right things, and get off their stage at the right time, and there are no arguments, and everything just happens, and everybody's happy. He's the OG that knows how to come in and just run the show for us.
Yeah, so I guess you get some pretty young guys and gals saying, I mean, you get some pretty
when
emotions flying.
When most of our lineup is local, some of them don't understand when you get there. You have to load your music. You have to get off on a certain time. You can't go over on your time because then you're eating somebody else's stage time and you're crapping on them. So it's just you have to have certain etiquette when you're doing festivals. It's not like a club show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's done so many festivals that I could completely trust him to manage the whole thing, so I don't have to be there. The same position on the Artiste IQ stage is going to be done by Peter Dante from all the Adam Sandler movies. Dante, he's going to be the host of the Artiste IQ stage.
Like a guy like Peter Dante, how the hell do you attract him?
I've met Peter Dante from just doing a bunch of different cannabis events and coming to just call him and talk to him a bunch. And then he came and did our show, The Dab Roast, right at COVID time where they shut down the world. And he ended up staying with us for like 6 or 7 days.
Cool.
The Tulalip Casino shut down their hotel and kicked him out of the hotel. So we had to find another hotel that would take him in right during the shutdown. So we spent a lot of time with Peter Dante, and he's somebody that every single time I've ever texted him or called him, he instantly answers, "What's up, Scotty?" And he's just a real fun guy.
Can I send him one just now anonymously?
He was Brad Pitt's assistant for many years.
Wow.
He works with Adam Sandler on every one of Adam's movies. He always plays himself. Just
What was that movie he did recently with the Sixers? Air? Shit, I can't remember. I really liked it.
So he is the host, and he does his own reggae music as well. So he's probably going to have his own music set where he sings on stage. But he's hosting the Artiste IQ stage, and then our own Washington favorite Sean Kemp will be hosting our main stage.
Okay, now I saw him on the on the 10 Dabs, and
Yep.
I of course I knew him, even from Philly. Everybody knows Sean Kemp, and I just
I'm actually leaving this interview to go interview him.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, maybe you want to leave earlier. I mean, but then again, you paid for this time. Okay, so
Yeah,
you
sure,
can't
sure.
you can't slide out. I was like, no, Scott, I ain't got no time for you. And then he's like, all right, I'll pay you up for it. So anyway, so Sean Kemp from here, but you've had a fair amount of interaction with Sean. In fact, is he directly involved in Cantanna?
He is the host of our main stage. He is
Okay.
not an owner or somebody who, I mean, he donated his time and any money that we would have made to pay him, he wanted to donate to the city of Renton.
Oh,
So
right
he just really wants to be a man of the community.
Good.
And he has proven that over and over and over again. I've worked with him and he has shown up to many of my events.
Really?
And I've never paid him a dime, and he's always done it just to be that
A good
extra
dude.
cool guy.
Yeah.
He's-
He ran through a rough patch of his own, to say
He's
the
been through
least.
many rough patches, as
Yeah.
we all have. But him
Yeah, oh,
being
yeah.
a public person, his rough patches are very public.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when things matter, like my father came to town, and my dad, of course, knew Sean Kemp, and was just like, "I've seen you with Sean Kemp before." And I was like, "Do you want to have dinner with him?" So I called Sean and said, "Hey, my dad's in town. He'd like to meet you." And he's like, "Okay, cool. Tonight, good? Yeah, I'll come right by." And he just
Cool.
drove right to my house and had dinner at my house, and they shared Larry Bird stories
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and things back and forth for
Oh, that'd be
hours,
great,
and
man.
they just got to connect as well. And Sean's just been that kind of a person that when you call him on something that really matters to you, he has the heart in it to actually show you he cares.
Yeah.
If you give him something that's for the community and say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing for the community. Do you want to be involved?" 100% of the time, no question, he's like, "Yeah, tell me when and where. I'll be there," and he'll pop up.
Right on. Right now, let me ask you a question. Some guys I didn't know, obviously, maybe I should have known. Crazy. What's it? Crazy.
Chris Crazy.
Chris Crazy.
Yeah.
There we see look at how out of line. I looked him up on the way in. No, last night, and the other one was Red Man.
Yeah, Red Man.
Now, obviously, you think very highly of Red Man. I guess is the one that you're kind of putting up there right now, is kind of out front for you. We're doing some extra.
Red Man was on our first version of the show, which was a podcast version, which Chris Crazy hosted.
Yeah, I listened.
And
to some
that
of
was more 10 dabs, 10 questions with celebrities.
Was that 24 episodes or 68 episodes?
We did 24 episodes
yeah,
of that
that's
one.
what I listened to a handful. of them.
And doing those episodes was a lot of fun, but at the end of that format, it just kept getting a little dry because it was the same three cameras looking at the same scenery over and over again.
I can see why you would say that, because I
And-
watched it, and about the third or fourth one, I'm like, got it. Got it.
That is just
Okay.
like, what you're going to see is just different people and different stories, but the visuals weren't really appealing. It wasn't very dynamic.
Yeah.
So Redman, we did an interview with him, and at every one of these releases, we'd throw a big party, and we would have people come out and watch these episodes in a huge crowd full of people. And halfway through these episodes, you'd see the crowd start to do other things or talk to the people next to them
shit.
or go smoke, because we just couldn't keep their attention through the whole thing. And when we did Redman's episode and he saw this, he was really just nerve-wracked by it, and he pulled me aside and he says, "I'm your friend. I'm not just another one of these celebrities who's going to take their money and run. I want you to do good with this, and what you're doing is not going to work. You're at the end." He's like, "If you want some help, I have some notes, and I can help you take this off YouTube and get it on Netflix." And I said, "Okay." I mean,
So let me catch this straight. Are you doing a Netflix thing, or is it on Netflix?
we're working on pitching Netflix.
Okay.
So that Netflix is an example of a larger avenue than YouTube, of something to actually get it on something where they pay up front for your content.
Yeah.
So, I mean, technically, Doc wants Netflix because he just voiced a show on Netflix, and he talked to his people through that chain about our show, and they said, if you get 3 pilots done, we'll give first right of refusal. We'll basically look at it first.
Cool.
So we have nothing more than just they'll look at it.
All right. Well,
But
hey, listen. If you've been in sales, that's a good.
That's a good sign. That's a buying sign.
Yeah.
I want to go to Discovery Plus because they have Jim Belushi's farm show on that,
Oh.
and they're pushing more cannabis mainstream stuff. And even though Jim Belushi's show is more of a scripted reality show and it doesn't really show real cannabis that much, it's closer to showing real cannabis. Our show is behind the curtain. We lift the skirt up. We show you what cannabis culture is.
Hey, have you ever heard? Oh, there's a guy named Todd Carmichael, I think. Pardon me if my name's wrong here. La Column Coffee. Good dude. Todd, if I got the last name wrong, I apologize. He's from out here, and he's like wired up. You know, a lot of fun, funny guy. Did one of these things, walk across the frickin' Antarctic, you know, and then, you know, like he's got you when you meet him, you know why he's just all lit up, you know. But anyway, he did a show where I wish I could, where they followed him through all these really funky islands looking for like the best green. And, you know, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, what was that damn show? Because like you could do something that would be pretty, you know, maybe in depth as to how you would find or create the best dab. And that, you know what I mean? That being like you talk about butane, you talk about these things. Could you explore that?
What Redman's notes the next day were you're showing dabs, you're showing extreme cannabis, which does help push this into mainstream, but there's no purpose. There's no purpose behind what you're doing other than trying to push it into mainstream by showing extreme. So what he wanted to add was the United Empowerment Party, the first FEC political party representing cannabis. Okay. And it's federally registered. His sister is the president of it.
Well, that helps.
And he wanted to push the UEP through our show by learning.
UEP, say that again.
The United Empowerment Party.
Right on. Okay.
He wanted to push this through our show by going and actually, instead of just having celebrities take dabs, which is the shock value, we still kept that on our show. We just take it from 10 dabs down to only 5 dabs with a celebrity.
Right on.
And then we actually fly to a different cannabis person inside the country and interview them with 5 segments about their brand, about what they do, about their choice to use cannabis as a vertical for their business. Now, we've never done a farm. We've never shot a farm yet. We've shot machinery companies. We've shot people who make all the ancillary equipment, the picks, the shovels. We've shot politicians. We've shot celebrities. We're telling the story of why people chose cannabis for their life, but not necessarily the people that touch cannabis every day, the people that are pushing the cannabis mission.
Selling it or consuming it.
In this, we're trying to get people to change their political party to the United Empowerment Party, of course, but also we're trying to find people that would like to run for office under the political party so we can get a seat at the table versus paying lobbyists every day.
Yeah, lobbyists are a killer.
Yeah, so there's a big purpose now behind pushing the story of cannabis, and we do 2 brands with 5 segments apiece, and then we have a celebrity taking 5 dabs and answering 5 questions. This creates 15 segments on our show. We do a lot of parties where we take crazy dabs and have crazy rigs and a lot of different glass, and then we have comedians on stage roasting each other over dabs, which gets very brutal.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So between all of that, we have very extreme stuff, but very educational, heartfelt stories of why people are in this, the ups, the downs of what they're feeling, what they're dealing with, how they're trying to get through it, the plans of what they think is coming with national cannabis, the struggles of pharmaceutical companies possibly taking over cannabis if the laws don't go our way, the difference between descheduling and rescheduling. All of this goes into our show.
D and re? I don't know.
Well, right now we're Schedule 3, like heroin or crack.
Okay. Yeah.
Or Schedule 1. If they schedule it to Schedule 3, then they're putting us in the same line as pharmaceuticals, which gives it a possibility. People think that's better, but that gives it the possibility for pharmaceutical companies to take it over.
What about nutraceuticals? Would that be a better path? You know, like, do you know nutraceuticals?
Mm-mm.
That's all the stuff like we used to sell into them, like people who would do like tote powder, you know. Now that's not what I'm meaning, but you know, that's not a pharmacological product, but it is used. A lot of the things are just vitamins you're taking at the store, you know, little powders of different, you know, all that. So we used to go in our business with bags, and they might say, oh, you know, we want a larger bag of vitamins or something like that, because we did all flexible. And then they would have these machines that filled the bottles really fast or the pouches really fast, and you could, you know, you hook that, you basically you pay them. You say, hey, I'm sending you this, put it in the bag for me, you know. And that, by the way, is called co-packing. But when you get into nutraceuticals, a lot of the bitching about it is the pharmacy people are saying, this is bullshit. Now, the reality is, if you go to my daughters who are 30 to 20, they're more turned on to that than the AMA. They're like, okay, AMA, my heart blows up. I'm in with the AMA. Truly, things that right now in our society are long-term, potentially dangerous things that you go take medication for. But they're heavily into trying to explore alternatives. In my generation, I am not so much. It's just, I'm like a little, I do it much more because of them now, but I'm brainwashed. I always joke around, we're not joke around, say, we all benefit from the culture we were raised in and we're a victim of it, and that's just, what it is.
It falls back on this next generation has so much communication and intelligence at their fingertips. And they never went out and played until the lights went off and then ran home. They never, They never had all the scrapes and bruises. They don't have the social skills that our generation has.
No, they don't. It's a
And
bummer.
they're stuck inside learning everything from the internet. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a hard road for cannabis moving forward, getting legal. But if you look at alcohol was illegal. And they decided that they wanted to make it legal again. So the U.S. government did a study. That study said it's going to take 15 years to change the way any society thinks about any one thing. So they stuck alcohol on a 15-year path to make it legal again. They started with Colorado and Washington.
Good places.
And they followed an entire path for 15 years until it went federally legal. When cannabis, they said, okay, we're going to make cannabis legal again.
Colorado.
It's going to take 15 years. They started with Colorado and Washington. The same 10 states followed after that. The same exact process of alcohol is being followed, which means we have about a year and a half left. Now, rumors out there that Amazon has already signed with some of the biggest companies out there, like Swisher Sweets.
There's a handful of publicly traded guys now.
Well, Amazon's already making their play to be able to be the transport company for cannabis, period.
No shit.
It's where you can, if I have my license in a year and a half when we go federally legal, I fully expect to be taking all of my product, like all of it, and just dropping it off at an Amazon and then doing all my marketing online, and they will just sell it or transport it everywhere in the country for me. And my entire job is just going to be getting as much product to Amazon as I can every day.
They took from us, and maybe somebody gets a better deal. I think they took from us 15 or 16% to move it through.
Yep.
Now, we didn't do much because we were very tied into, we ended up selling to 5,000 of these small to medium-sized roasters. No Starbucks, none of that. So we had a pretty clean, direct line. Mm-hmm. We were very specific. But we did find help out of Starbucks, but it was a little bit like, so to turn it through them is 14 to 15, which actually for distribution is not a bad price.
I pay 10% commission on my products for my salespeople that go out there and sell.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they have to do vendor days and gas money and all of that kind of stuff. Amazon's going to rake it in when they can tap each state and say, give me a list of licenses, and then hit up all those licenses and say, just bring us all your product from now on.
Well, now, could your sales reps just push them to Amazon, maybe get a little less of a tick? You could say, hey, dude, it's great stuff.
The sales rep job is going to disappear, really, because I'm going to give every single cent I can to Amazon marketing. And they're going to push me everywhere around the country. And people that have never had cannabis before, all of a sudden, that are allowed to order it on Amazon, are going to get it pulling up in a green truck in front of their house.
But on the other hand, you could say, now we're talking business a little bit here, folks. But the thing I learned about Scott from reading about him is, and you may hear about him, is Dab, Cantanna, all that. What I enjoy about reading is you're a business guy. You're driven by that side of it. Much like me, you've developed a massive passion for the product, which you have to have. Might as well not even do it if you don't. And you have some long-term goal. I could see it in your eyes. You got fire in your eyes, and I'm like, I like that. I like to hook up with a guy like that. We always said in my sales group, give me balls rather than brains. And it was like, listen, we get a guy like you. I don't know, you're probably smart. I'm not saying you aren't. You get a guy with your fire, we could teach you what we're selling. That's the easy part. It's the getting the fire. That's the hard part. And it ain't easy to find. And, you got it. So that's great
I
stuff.
appreciate that.
But when I could see that in your eyeballs, it's the Scotch anger. It's the Scotch beauty, whatever the hell it is. It's dangerous. But all kidding aside now, back to Amazon. We did basically we sold direct and gave people commissions. Whatever went to Amazon, fine. They had generally held a price. Question is, if it came through me and you were a big volume user, I could cut you in on a better deal.
Mm-hmm.
Or a more direct line of distribution, or a way to and maybe you can think about this, more ways to okay, I'm going to manage your stock for you, so you're not going to run out of shit. Well, that's one idea.
Biggest thing in cannabis right now is creating identities, because the pioneers get killed by the settlers. Settlers are the big tobacco, the Coca-Colas, the big companies that have been planning their strategy in cannabis for a long, long time.
Creeping.
And when they get the authority to step in, it's going to be them literally buying up and stomping on all of the small little businesses that thought we were the big businesses. But the pioneers get killed by the settlers. Now, we have to prepare for that now. We have to try to get the UEP in line, galvanize the country, get laws written to protect the legacy strains and people from stepping in and just ruining what we've built.
Well, the thing is, and I keep going back to specialty coffee because I know it, and specialty pet food, like specialty coffee, and even some of the beers. Well, the beers are getting all bought out by Anheuser-Busch or whoever the hell it is. But in coffee, what you're finding is, Starbucks and these Pete's guys and all that, they got it all done. But the smaller people, the specialty crowd that I worked with, were really pressing the individuality of what they offered and the culture around it and the experience. Come to our place. It had a little bit more of an avant or
there's always going to be the home brew or the small brewery type of alcohol model where they are very hometown heroes.
Yeah.
But they're not Budweiser and they can't compete in that market. And there's going to be the same thing. There's going to be a lot of hometown hero grows where it's like, do you want to shop local or do you want to get the commercialized weed from the big field growers in California that ship around the world?
The Folgers coffee.
Yeah, there's going to definitely be those two markets of, do you want the small grow or do you want the big commercialized?
Yeah.
And the big commercialized was what in this market we would call the fat pandas. Those are consistent. You know what you're getting. It's not a bad product. There's no negative about it other than they're the big guy. Oh, be scared of the big guy. But their product is good. It's affordable. It's good for the market. Everybody else has really good product as well on different avenues, but they had a lot of money to get started and they set themselves up right.
Would you say that you're steaming towards some sort of I don't want to reflect your strategy, but is there some... would you have an interest in being acquired by something like that?
I think every single person in the cannabis market today has an interest of being acquired, because nobody can compete when it comes to the big boys stepping in when federal laws change. Every single person in the entire cannabis market, including cookies, every single brand is trying to build the perfect image on a platter for that day coming when they can sell it out.
Let me challenge you there. Every single person who has a business sense, because there's a lot of people, well, two things. There's a lot of people who are in my market who, if you ask them what they wanted to do, they would be like, I just want to have 2 shops. Done. I don't want to do anything else. And I would be like, dude, like I remember out in Maui, I'd say, dude, you can eat up Kona.
When grocery stores start selling weed, when Walmart starts selling weed, all these dispensaries aren't going to be there anymore.
Yeah, okay.
The brands are going to have to think about, how am I going to survive selling into the big market when OSHA has to come do its inspections of my place, when I have to keep the air clean around the plants because technically it's toxic. None of that is
That's
done.
some of the shit that when you get into nutraceuticals, you'd have to look into that. I don't know what level I'm pretty sure they've significantly less strict requirements as obviously, medical, but I don't know where that is. And I don't know if that has any interest to you or not, but, I do think, it's good to hear you say that only because, you deal with a lot of people in my mind that are younger, and I went through I went through drug and alcohol addiction. I did all of it, and I remember, I thought I was so cool because I listened to the Clash, and anybody, Sid Vicious, and I just thought I was the coolest guy since sliced bread. Hated government, big corporations were jerk offs, that old nugget. And, and I see the younger people now. Don't tell me, do you hate the government and big corporations? And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'll go, can you just come up with another one? I mean, they've been saying that since the Roman times.
That's a uniform.
Yeah, we got to find something. Give me a little juice. You're acknowledging that you want to access that for let's say capitalistic reasons, and also I'm sure some just personal, our vanity, our interest in success. You're chasing something, and you kind of know what it is. It's probably going to be a hell of a lot harder to get there.
I mean, the Dab Roast is a national TV show that we're building, and I'm building the Dab Roast products, and the Dab Roast cannabis products need marketing. And if we have a TV show and also have products for sale that can ship around the whole country, the TV show is all the marketing money, all in advance, built way in advance. The TV show is going to be out before the the laws change for us to sell the product across state lines. So we're building the marketing for a $50 million evaluation right now.
Cool. I mean, that's, that ain't easy.
No.
But it can be done. Mark my words. I know, and it can be accomplished with, I won't get into the exact whatever, but with fucking bags, so you have a more specialized product. But once it goes commodity, then like you said, you got to come up with some shit to make you different.
Exactly. Everybody is trying to come up with a brand or a niche or something that sets them aside and makes them marketable whenever the national laws change, because that's when it's really game on. Right now, people are just trying to set foundation work.
Yeah.
Get their foundation work set up on their brand. So, because you're not even allowed to copyright your cannabis brand outside of your state.
Oh, fuck.
So, I mean, unless you've gotten an apparel brand with the same logo, then your mark is absolutely copyable in every other state out there.
Oh, shit, that sucks.
Because there's no federal laws protecting copyrights for cannabis. You can't.
That's nice.
Yeah. So right now it's like Cookies is not a cannabis brand. They're an apparel brand who licenses their apparel brand to farms to sell. So that's the way that they went about protecting their mark nationwide right now. They're not a cannabis brand, even though everybody knows Cookies as cannabis.
Now you got my head on now I'm falling into your trap. I'm into wanting to talk about the damn business. I mean, yeah, I'm like, okay, Dab's cool. Got it. Now you're talking promoting it and getting it out there. And now I'm like, this is the side I like. Obviously for me, anything can be abused, anything. This kid's fucking themselves up on pot, dab, I'm sure that stuff, alcohol. I've been in rehab. I've been working with people in that all my life. No shortage of people trying to get clean, and some of them have success. Needless to say, we know drugs, we know all that stuff. I don't think, maybe you agree, I don't think there's per se a recreational use of heroin. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I could be wrong.
I don't think there's a recreational use of heroin. Is there a use for heroin in this world? Probably somewhere. That's why it's here.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of a fan of Bill Hicks in that, I've done a lot of drugs in my life, and I had a really good time doing drugs. But I graduated those schools, and I figured out the irresponsibility that comes along with them, and the way that it makes life harder on you when you're doing them.
Yeah.
Even though they give you the disguise that it's easier or less stressful, you're just compounding all of that stress when you do drugs. And I found a partner in my life that had never done drugs, didn't approve of drugs, and just never lived that life. And I did not want to introduce her to that life. So I quit on my own accord overnight and just stopped everything that I ever did, simply because she deserved not to know that world.
Dragged down by a woman, yet another man.
Lifted up. Lifted up.
Here. Married for 33 years. I'd marry her again today. Holds me up, right, left, and in between. And so, all joking aside,
So, I mean, I did it for her, but I did it for myself at the same time. And I just considered I graduated drug school. I did almost every drug out there for a long time, and I had a good time doing it. Never stole a car, never lost a job, never cheated on anybody,
Yeah.
never stole anything, never did anything but I realized that I would be better off and happier without him.
Yeah, same. Well, mine was a little more brutal. I ended up in rehab and then detox, and
Yeah, I never
you
went
know,
to jail, never went to rehab, never did anything like that. Had a great time on drugs, but graduated that school because I realized that I was never going to get ahead from where I was while I
no,
was doing
no.
drugs. If I wanted to get elevated in business to bigger places, I had to leave that behind, along with the friends that came along with those
Yeah,
drugs.
me too. You know what I noticed at about 25 or 26 was I had some very high achieving brothers. And what I started to realize, and they were just like distancing themselves from me. They loved me, but they would be like, dude, if you're going to be fucking selling cocaine out of that place down where with those fucking guys, we're not going to fuck up our name. We'll fucking call the cops on you. In enough words.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, I started to realize with guys around me and gals around me that I was falling socioeconomically behind. I wanted to be, a good salesman, couldn't be. I wanted to be a good worker, couldn't be. Fact of the matter is, I was locking in to a life that was, here. Now, okay, some people want that. I didn't,
Mhm.
and big Irish families, there were some that locked in here and didn't want to, which so I had many role models of that, but I also had role models of very successful people. I wanted to go that way. And the only way to go that way was to get my head clean. So much like you, I just a different avenue, maybe a different bottom. It doesn't matter. You got the shit out of you that was ruining your life. Done. Finished.
I had a good example as well of a father. My father started as aircraft maintenance on the A-10 Warthog in the Air
Yeah,
Force,
right on.
and he worked himself all the way up to being the Chief Master Sergeant of the entire Air Force. He was the 15th Chief of the entire Air Force, entire
on.
listed armies or listed Air Force. So military royalty, commanded bases all the way until they gave him the entire Air Force. And at Verizon Wireless, I would sign into the Air Force link every day and watch him from his office in the Pentagon give that
Cool.
day's report on the Air Force link. And just always had somebody that pushed beyond what was the expectations and always got that extra promotion, got that extra job.
Pushing the ball.
Took that extra assignment in another country somewhere and was just always pushing to do more and more and more. And it was just a great example of anything is possible and you can do anything. And it's always been just stuck in my head.
Yeah, I have the thing that I found is that I find really cool is having 5 daughters and watching their perspective on the world as opposed to a male perspective. Significantly different. And they have, first off, I tell them you be whatever the fuck you want to be. I don't care, politically, activity wise. My problem is with them is they got no problem with giving me a rash of shit and wanting to debate me and argue me. But I love that because they're taking me on a lot of the, today just, I don't want to get into politics at all, but, just the basic women's rights or some of the, some of the way men just fucked them over for a long time. I argue back and forth, not whatever. I don't care. I argue back and forth with them about that. I think some of it's a little extreme. Some of it is just, men got the power stick and they fucking abused it for a while, whatever. Who doesn't? We just happened to get like a 50,000 year run on it. Hey, let me take a break. I got to take a pee-pee. Do you care to use the restroom? Always want to send compliments to the man helping me. You know what I mean? Just, what my fear is? It's insecurity. Whenever I think somebody's coming up a little bit, I need to knock them down. So
well,
I feel like
I'll knock them down a peg real quick.
Cool.
One of my best memories in my life is having Michael Winslow come and perform at my birthday at my warehouse venue. And at the end of his performance, Brian's in the room and he's just like, do you have a fucking drum set anywhere? And I was like, I have this cheap, broke down, barely can stand itself up drum set in the other room. He's like, go get it. We got it, brought it up. I literally had to have somebody standing in front of the drum set to keep it from moving. And he sat there and rocked that bitch. Killed
On tons
it.
of drugs?
Killed it so much
clean. Damn.
that Michael Winslow took him on tour.
Wow. I knew that. You told me about that, but I
And
just
that
always thought it
was
was bullshit. I just thought
such
you
a
lied.
horrible drum set, and he killed it. Just nothing but passion.
Cool.
Never forget it.
Cool. Well, I'll say this. Speaking about a guy behind the scenes, right now, everybody's like, "Who is this guy?" Brian has been just a passionate guy about what we're doing here, and slowly become a friend and an advisor, for lack of a better term. Dragged a guy like you in here and got me you to pay, which once again, he paid heavily for getting the opportunity to be on our show.
2 pence. 2 pence.
At the top, maybe 1 peso. So anyway, now we go rolling back, and I think it would be interesting for the folks listening here is, just because I was looking at it last night, actually the last 2 or 3 nights, trying to get a handle on all the different people that have been on, and then I don't know a lot of their names because I'm an old guy, right? So I'm looking them up and going on Wikipedia and digging it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, maybe you just run down some of the names. I mean, just because some of them are quite nationally known and others are very locally known.
I mean, we've had a lot of big celebrities on, and I can give anybody out there some real quick game on if you have a podcast, if you have a show, and you're trying to get things going, and you want some celebrities on, pay the $200, become a member of IMBD Pro, and then go on IMBD Pro and just look up every celebrity that you want, and there's a little button that just says contacts. And it lists sometimes their personal phone number, their email, all of their team's emails. And if you make an email and you attach every member of their team on it and say, this is what I'm trying to do, this is the budget I'm trying to work with, this is the reach we have, we would love to work with your person, 9 times out of 10, somebody on that chain is going to tell somebody else, hey, this isn't my job, this is Sandy's job. Sandy, are you on this? Sandy's going to say, what is this now? What are you trying to do? And you get your celebrity on. Once you get them saying, yes, I'll come on for this dollar amount, then it's going on and trying to find your sponsors for that episode and say, this is going to be the reach. This is the celebrity and their reach. We're going to be putting this episode together. It's going to cost me $5,000 to fly them out, get them on there and get them some pocket money. I need $1,000 from 5 different sponsors. I'll go find those real quick. We'll get this celebrity on. We've had some great celebrities on. Tommy Chong, Ken Shamrock, Simon Rex.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of big celebrities on.
Ricky Williams.
Ricky Williams was a great one.
Yeah.
Against
those of
Sean,
you who don't
Sean
know,
Kemp.
Ricky Williams was a great running back. I think he played in Miami. And at the time, he sort of said, yeah, I smoke weed. And I think at that time, people got a little tripped out about it. Like, oh,
yeah, weed wasn't that big back then. Yeah. And he lost millions of dollars from it.
I know, that's fucked up. Because all of us who were, we all were like,
but some of his best Heisman winning games, he'd come back and said, I was so stoned in that game.
It's like, many people don't remember Doc Ellis and the Pittsburgh Pirates, where he did a hit of blotter acid. And then, do you know this story?
I do.
And then they called him and said, dude, you're starting today. And he's like, he went out there and pitched this great game. He's like, whoa, I'm pitching today. But anyway, I wouldn't advise that for any kids who are trying to come up.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, I don't know the guy. In fact, that was a stage name. That's not his real name. So anyway, but now tell me, there was some place called Cava Gold or Cava something.
Caviar Gold.
That's right. Caviar Gold is the record company.
The first record company I started for the brand Caviar Gold.
Okay.
And they did infused cannabis.
Oh, okay.
One of the very first brands that ever did infused cannabis, meaning they took the oils and they put it back on more flower, increasing the potency of the flower.
Okay.
So they made a whole bunch of joints and made a good name for themselves doing that. And when cannabis became legal in our state, taxes became a thing. Our state, Washington, is 47.5% tax on cannabis.
Holy shit.
It's the highest tax in the entire country is our
Racking
state.
up some cash.
When our taxes hit in our state, Caviar Gold didn't want to adjust prices or just their game plan at all, and it made their product non-viable in this market anymore. And no matter how much I tried to explain to that company things have to change in order for you to be successful here, they didn't want to hear it. So we had to split ways. I turned into a new company called HiTunes by a joint Get a Song.
Okay, I read about that.
And we released like 47 different artists on cannabis, which was really cool at the time. It's basically just a QR code leading you to a download page. And there was no ability to turn that into sound scans. So although we were distributing music, we weren't giving anybody Billboard credit for that music. We have redesigned this. So now I have an artist named Hoodie Jer, and he put up all of the money and built the whole back-end computer system out to where now at the Cantanna Festival, if somebody wins, they go to Robert Lang Studios and they record a song with us.
Or a Corvette.
We did give away a Corvette too.
I love that.
But they record a song, then we'll print that song on 10,000 stickers with little scratch-offs. And then we can put those stickers on anything. We can put them on cereal boxes. We can put them on cigarette packs. We can put them in liquor. We can put them on cannabis. We can put them on anything you want. They scratch it off. They go to the website. They type in that code, and it gives them a coin. That coin can then be taken to the electronic website jukebox and dropped, and they can download whatever song they pick. That gives a proof of purchase that we now can turn into SoundScan. So, given an example,
Holy shit!
given
you've
an
been playing this
example,
game good.
the Red Dead Redemption video game, they'll go out and they'll buy the licensing from 10 different artists for their songs, and they'll have a Red Dead Redemption soundtrack on the video game. And then that video game is so popular, it'll get over 1 million pre-sales. All of those 10 songs go platinum on the Billboard, get all the charts before anybody's ever heard the song.
Oh, I read that.
Based off of the proof of purchase being turned into SoundScan.
So it's sold enough that
we're
hits
doing
it
the
hot.
same thing. We're turning in the proof of purchase saying this song has been sold on these 10,000 stickers put on these products that have already hit the market and been downloaded. And SoundScan will give the artist that we've given a 10,000 sticker deal to 10,000 distribution on Billboard, which allows them to go out and show people, hey, I've got 10,000 song sales on this song. I need to get sponsorship on a music video for it. And it helps them build towards sponsorships and build towards pushing their career if they have Billboard credit.
Yeah. Now let me go another question here. You then, let me just run down this without taking too much time. There's a photography company, Seattle Photography or something.
SM Photography is where I started everything. Everything I am in the entertainment business, I started with a camera. And through that, I learned all of the club security owners or managers, the bookers, the promoters. And then a band asked me to manage them, and I said, no, I'm a photographer. 3 months later, they asked me to manage them again, and I said, you know what? I could probably get you gigs everywhere with everybody. That's actually how I met Brian. I took photos. Yeah, Lucero asked me to manage them, but I took photos of Brian's band at Studio 7. That's the first time that I met him. Yeah.
That's when it went downhill, right then. I remember that, Brian, very well from afar. That's not true.
So photos turned into management. Management turned into becoming a record label with Caviar Gold. And if I had to spit any 2 cents to any artist out there listening now with a dream of getting signed by some big record label, please put that dream aside. Go to sirccodes.com and buy ISRC codes.
ISRC.
Yep. Go buy your own codes so that when you go upload your own music to CD Baby or DistroKid or whatever, and they say, do you have your own ISRC codes or do you want us to supply ours? When you supply your own codes, that means when your songs get played anywhere and all of the royalties get tracked, that all comes back to you.
Oh.
As opposed to going back to CD Baby and then they have to cut you a check. If you go claim your own money with your own ISRC codes, you become your own record label and you own all your own publishing from top to bottom.
Can't imagine.
If you upload your music to them and you let them use their ISRC codes and you don't have any attached to the metadata of your songs, then they're going to own the publishing of that, and then they have to pay you out.
So let me one of the bands I love, which is probably not well, it's just the one I love is the Avett Brothers. I
Okay.
don't know if you know them or not, but they're just one that I've always loved, like John Prine, Bob Dylan. Avett Brothers is more like they're more story lyric based, and I just kind of like that stuff. Anyways, but they got like skrillions of freaking hits on Spotify. So I was trying to calculate what you get hit, how much you make for each hit. And I was like, oh, so they're making some half decent money, but you got to get a shitload of
They're
fucking
not making
fog
decent
down.
money.
No, they weren't. But I mean, I was calculating it out because I was like, okay, now they also have touring and da.
I don't have a Spotify account. I won't support streaming music.
Really?
I don't listen to any streaming music. I download songs. I pay for songs. I support music as musicians. I mean, the basis behind iTunes was music used to sell sheet music. Then it sold record players and records.
I remember
Then it
those.
sold tape players and tapes.
Remember them
Then
well.
it sold CD players and CDs.
You're going down
Then
the
it
line.
sold MP3 players. Then it's now on phones for free, and music doesn't have anything to sell anymore. With our QR code, not our QRs, with our scratch off codes that we put on things, whatever you put it on is what it's selling. So I can put it on joints, and now music sells joints. I can put it on cereal, now music sells cereal. But it doesn't have anything to sell to attach it to anymore. It used to sell the actual CDs. The CDs sold CD players. Everything worked as a chain. Now there's nothing for music to sell, so the amount of what music is worth became nothing. Now music is just a billboard for other things, and the idea of selling out is the only way you can make money in music.
Or you got to tour your ass off.
Yeah, but for touring right now, you have to buy onto a tour. Merch is barely going to make you survive on food on that tour. And then the third time you do a tour in the same cities, you should hopefully be breaking even. It's really, really hard.
And money.
Really hard. It takes a lot of money.
Yeah.
Any artist, I've spoken at a lot of industry nights and stuff like that, and I stopped wanting to neg people out because the hard truth is it takes $250,000 just to hire the right publicity companies just to see you.
But people like I train younger sales guys now, and when you get into you want to know the real deal here. Here's the real deal. You're going to do some bore-ass shit for a handful of years. You know why? You got to build some cred. You're in the minor leagues. You got a little chicken-ass contract. They'll get rid of you anytime next boy coming along, or gal coming along. And now you got to bust your balls. And there's kind of no way around that one.
The only people, in my opinion, really, truly making money in music are the parasites that are stealing money from the artists.
Floating around.
And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of companies out there that say, we'll help you get seen and all this and all that. But there's 3 or 4 big publicity companies. Those are the only 3 or 4 big publicity companies that can truly get you on the national.
And they ain't cheap.
And they're not only not cheap, they're $6,000 to $10,000 a month, and they only take a 6-month to a 2-year contract. So
shit.
If you don't have enough in the can for them to push you, they're not even going to try because they want a high success rate.
Yeah.
So what is enough in the can? 1 album? Nah, that's not enough for them. In a perfect world...
then you got to get the album out.
In a perfect world, for a publicity company of one of the big boys to take you and push you, it's going to be 3 5-song EPs, 9 music videos, 2 tours, and a box set that summarizes it all. That gives them 2 years of content. Gives them 2 years of pushing something out on one of their channels every 2 weeks, something new for them to talk about, and slowly build the fire.
$500,000, $1 million
slowly build the fire until the fire is roaring. And if you're good, they'll get you seen everywhere in the country. Then you'll get invited on tours. Then you'll be invited to make money versus spend money. Yeah. But to build that story, you have to have enough content in the can. That's the biggest folly of any musician out there is they keep on releasing everything as soon as it's done, trying to build their story. But every time you release it, you've got nothing in the can and you've got nothing to build an actual story with on a national scale.
Once again, back to sales funnels. You ever do sales funnels?
Oh, yes. I've got 3 that I've got to look at today.
You load them in the top. The old saying is if somebody has, it's like eating a snake. If somebody's got the bottom of a big bulge and they come in your office, dude, when I get this account, let me tell you what, we're going to make a fucking fortune. And
I,
you're
I
like,
always say it's a pinball machine.
Yeah,
There's
man.
one winning pinball in there. You just got to keep getting pinballs.
and they're going bing, 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 bing,
Yep.
bing. And there's a certain, I don't know what it's called. I think you know it. There's this certain like music to it where, like I'll say, somebody say, when do you go for the close? And I'm just like, in my only term I can say it is, when do you lean in and hold a girl's hand? When do you try and kiss her for the first time? There's just a feeling in the air. And in selling, I don't know if you agree, but there's a feeling like I've developed a relationship. I trust them. They trust me. I won't screw them. I really won't in my heart. And now it's time to say, why don't you and I,
If we can find a common ground to where we both win, why wouldn't you walk forward with me?
Yeah, no. I mean, see, this is the problem with this guy. He's got that same sincere Scottish-Irish thing. He probably is sincere. but it's very endearing, for me. I think at least we share a common headset.
Yes, sir.
I think if I marched my 5 brothers in here, first they'd all want that calendar. That's step one. So let me wrap up here. And once again, thank you so much for, maybe you can stick around for a little bit afterwards and just chat a little bit. But let's say the big question we all have is, or the 2 questions. What would be your advice for the next young lad or young lady chugging down this path, maybe 10 years, our audience, we like to think is 25 to 35, chugging along down that path. And they walked up to Scott and said, "Hey, Scott, like, what would you advise?"
In cannabis or in
any
entertainment?
Business in general.
Don't
Because
be
really your basic, you're just using business to support a passion in a way, so let's talk about just business.
Watch Shark Tank. Evaluate your business appropriately and don't give up equity. Do paperwork
That's a smart one. That is a really smart one.
Do paperwork on everything that you do, even if it's just an MOU on an email.
Here. I love that.
Make sure you're always covered on every step of the way so that nobody's expecting something of you that you said you would do that's not on paper.
Here. Game 3. I'm in.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, find a solution where everybody wins, document it well, make sure everybody's on the same page and sign off on it before you do the work. And then when you do the work, if you fall short, own up to it and make it right.
Yeah. They once heard that, and now for me, I was a book tape listener like a madman when I was young. Everything, psychology of selling, national account management, territorial management, one that was called Confident Selling, old book. But the thing about confident selling, they said, is just be you. Nothing is more appealing and almost off-putting to somebody to have a guy come in or a gal come in and just be them. Don't put on these airs. Just be you. And I've always been good at that, and I really mean it, because I don't mind vulnerability. I don't mind. You don't like it. I don't want it.
Well, I've learned a lot of lessons that I believe are valuable for other people to learn from where I failed. Where I chose the path of ego versus the path of easy or hard. So I don't mind being vulnerable either, and telling people where, I try to do things outside of my grasp because I think I will grow to become the person that can manage it.
There we go. One grab, run, shoot for the stars, and catch the clouds, and then just keep going. That was always my attitude. And so that's the reality. And then you were talking about some stuff that, man, oh man, people don't do it. Document, organize, plan.
I have a lawyer that called me a cowboy every time she talked to me. You're just a cowboy. And, I got tired of being a cowboy. So anytime I talk to, and I got people that heard one thing and it's not the way that I said it. Mm-hmm. Or I draw up an MOU, send it to them, and then they send me back a contract and it's not the way that we talked about it, because they were trying to get one over on me.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have seen it and posted it out, then they would have got one over on me. But putting everything on paper, because not only is Not everybody a smart person, but not everybody's honest in this
Oh,
world.
here. I went through buying my business and having to borrow a lot of money, investors and all that. And I used to always say that it's, in my opinion, it's the sins of omission, not commission. It's the shit they don't say. Like you're going through a contract and oh yeah, and then you're like, hey, dude, what if this happens? I'm just going to use an example. That doesn't seem to be written in here. And they're like, oh, well, everybody knows that. We don't, you really don't have to
Yep.
have it in there. And you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know it. This is before I got it to my lawyer. And I'd be like, well, what the fuck? And then you realize they kind of fool you with this, what they don't tell you.
I had a firm step in and say that they wanted to become partners of my business. So I said, okay, what's your offer? And they put an offer on paper of everything they would do to push the business iTunes, including commercials that they would run on TV for a clothing brand for it, billboards that they would put up, all of the different collateral that we would print and put in stores to push the brand. And they promised me all of this. We signed with them and they started paying our paychecks because they had the promise of all of our money is about to get turned on, but we don't have it there yet. So I signed with them and they were paying our paychecks for like 6 months, but we didn't get all the extra stuff that we were promised. Then all of a sudden they called my employees, told them that they were firing everybody, shutting down the business and selling it.
Great.
And my employees called me and I was like, wait a second. No, go back to work. I'll be there in a second. I showed up, changed all my locks, called them and said, what do you think you're doing? They were like, well, we have invested at this point like $120,000 into all of your people's salaries and we don't feel like it's turning a profit. So we're just going to sell it off now. And of course I says, no, you didn't deliver on all of these points. Because if you would have delivered on all of these points, then we would be profitable right now. This is a classic pump and dump. And I save the paperwork and I'm going to go ahead and change my locks and say, fuck you, have a nice day.
Oh boy.
And they never came back. And we sat down in mediation one time. I explained, no, fuck you, have a nice day. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. You invested in building something and then didn't uphold your half. I'm sorry you lost your money.
Yeah, but listen, you put money in, you don't do your shit, you lose your money.
Unfortunately, that's the hard part of business is I wanted it to work with them. I wanted those partners.
There's a lot of times they put money in.
Yeah.
Everybody works their ass off and it just doesn't work. That's the game.
But you got to be upfront because they were promising something they didn't have and they thought they were going to get. And they never could follow through with all of the things that would have made our business successful. But they, of course, thought they were going to get this money and were making deals in advance on it. And the paperwork saved me.
So the equity thing, let's say, I think, was learned through screwing up. Like,
yes.
I let these dudes in. That happened to my dad, actually, much like you learned something. He had business for 70 years, 3 families, big pissing match at one point. Nobody could fucking go to the bathroom, without contacting a lawyer. And by the time running the business just fell apart by the nature of nobody had control. It's like 30, 40, nobody had the 50 spot. When my business, I did let out some, but I owned 75% of it. So I had completely the controlling interest. I was happy to give out to 25 because the people that I was giving it to were instrumental to get what I needed. And I'd worked with them for 25, 30 years. And I was just like, no, these cats, they're going to bust their balls for me. And I know they will. So when it comes to equity, I would only advise people, don't give up your majority. In fact, I'd hold back 65, 70%. What I understand is, I think I'm correct, it's called a supermajority, which basically, just says.
Well, there's also 200% to every business. There's 100% of equity, and then there's 100% of just profits.
Yeah.
So you can give away a percentage without giving them ownership.
Yeah.
You can just say, hey, you can earn this percentage of our profits, but you don't get a seat at the table. You don't get to make any choices.
Good way to point that. That's a good point out. What we used to do was we did like retention bonuses. Stick around for 3 years and you get this hit. You're not getting interest, but you're not getting equity. Same thing as you're talking about.
Yeah. You build up enough sweat, we're going to pay you on your sweat, but
Yep.
you're not going to earn equity and ownership because you weren't here to start it.
You weren't here to kick it out. All right, so now we come to the big question. Why'd you do all this shit?
I mean, I'm just always shooting for the stars, swinging for the fences, trying to find something to make my impact and something to bring purpose and change. I was a big fan of Seattle Hemp Fest, and I was part of their whole group, pushing forward with them. I had my own stage for like 6 years there. I ended up being the presenting sponsor of the last Hemp Fest ever. Cool. And then naturally we just said, hey, if there's not going to be another Hemp Fest, we're going to start our own festival. And we started the Cantanna. Cool. We just naturally am trying to swing for the fences and do something big because I believe I can.
Good. Well, that's what you need.
I don't think the barriers exist like a lot of people might think there are. I get told all the time that I'm trying to do something that's not possible. All the time.
Good. Have it at it. You know, you got it. Like I said before, you're the one who has to drive this thing. You know, and you know there's going to be a lot of headwind. So you got to push it. Now, tell me, circling back, but this germ of the idea came, it sounds like just from really culturally, your father's drive, your family drive, and you just kind of attached to that, and that you just had to find a way to do it maybe other than the Air Force. Is that a fair assumption?
That's a fair assumption. When I got to the end of high school, has always, may I please go to school, sir? Thank you, sir, type of an atmosphere. And I grew up with a very structured amount of like respect for authority and chain of command and all of that, fundamentals and beliefs. And then when I turned 18, I hit the self-destruct button with the sledgehammer as hard as I could and went against everything. And I broke a lot of crimes. I went to a lot of jails and traveled around the whole country and did a lot of bad things.
Good, boy.
I learned the other side of the coin. And then I, of course, learned my lessons on why all of the things that I grew up being taught mattered. And quite divinely, I had a lot of things happen that could only happen if there was some sort of a higher power trying to teach you a lesson and say, hey, we need you to see what you're doing right now.
Well, you're saying some words hardcore into my world, which is in recovery. You don't have to get into that, but you know, identifying a higher power. You ain't it. The other one in our world is, you know, admit that you need that to stop you from being crazy. And people think, oh, I'm not crazy. No, the shit you were doing was crazy. You know, you don't do that stuff if you're normal. You know, I'm lying, cheating. I'm not loyal to girlfriends. I'm everything. That's crazy behavior when you just repeat it. So that's kind of, and the way you said, you got to look up or divine, really hit a note. So listen, I think Scott's been an awesome guest. Scott, why don't you run down your coordinates one more time before we get going? Just let everybody know who you are and what's going on out there.
My name is Scott McKinley. I'm the executive producer of the Dab Roast TV and the Cantanna Festival here in Washington State. You can find anything the Cantanna Fest or the Dab Roast, goes straight to me. Hit me up. Let's talk. Let's chat. We're trying to get some people out here to support. Look up the United Empowerment Party if you want to switch to the Cannabis Party as your registration for voting. And if you want to run for office, reach out to us and we can hopefully put you in a seat of position and power to protect cannabis and the rules coming.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Nice pitch. Good job. Clean, simple. You know, that's what we call in our world an elevator pitch, an efficient elevator pitch. Well practiced and well stated. All right, man. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thank you.